Today, getting her lighting and sound checks as she prepares for her speech tonight. Her job when she takes the podium again, appealing to women voters and making her husband's plans for the country sound more appealing. And joining us now with more on that, our own Richard French, once again live for us tonight at the DNC in Charlotte. Hi again, Rich.
How you doing, Andrew? You know, it's math. You and I and Richard and Dominic, we've talked about math seemingly for more than a year now in this campaign. But also simply put, with a little over 60 days left, this election, for all intents and purposes, is tied. Now, this will come down to a lot of factors, turnout, how much money is going to be spent between now and Election Day. But key constituencies right now, we know how they're going to break. Certainly when it relates to women, they seem to be breaking for Barack Obama. White males, they seem to be breaking for Mitt Romney right now. Minority groups, Latinos, African Americans, they're breaking for the president. Turnout, as I said, will be a big issue. But I want to bring in our next guest, Jess McIntosh, a spokesperson for Emily's List, one of, if not the most influential PACs who also endorses candidates. Has it been an evolution with Barack Obama, or has there been unconditional love from your group from the beginning? Because some people thought he could have and should have pushed harder, at least in the beginning of his presidency.
You know, he's got an incredible story to tell women voters. We're not just as Democrats running someone who is not going to do any harm against a party that quite frankly is. We're running somebody who's got a really great record. Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act was the first piece of legislation he signed all through the health care debate. He fought for women's health care access to be included. I mean, right up until, you'll see all of the firepower from women on the stage here tonight. This is a party that is speaking to women and has a really good policy behind that. It's not just about talking.
Do you think, at least the break that we've seen in the polls, that is pretty substantially in terms of a margin going for Obama, more of a reflection of what the GOP platform was, more so than anything anyone's going to say on the stage?
Well, I mean, like I said, the Democrats have a great story to tell. As great as that is, the Republicans have an equally terrible one. I mean, they have been
punctuated
engaged
by Aiken, right?
Yeah, well, yes. If Aiken had been an outlier, that would have been one thing. But he's really right in line with the Republican Party. The only reason why that resonated the way it did far past Missouri was because everybody had heard Republicans trying to redefine rape, trying to curtail women's access to health care, to birth control, really basic things that we thought were debates that ended in our parents' and even grandparents' generations. So I think the Republicans as a whole have
This is a much longer conversation, but if people look at the map of the United States and see the rollbacks in terms of reproductive rights, state by state by state, and it's not just in the Midwest here or in the Deep South, in the Northeast too, people will be surprised how much has changed in the last 4 years, wouldn't they?
Yes, absolutely. And at Emily's List, which is an org that only supports pro-choice Democratic women, our membership has quadrupled since the House was taken over by Republicans after 2010. These are younger women who are seeing exactly what you're talking about in state by state by state and starting to realize that they have a stake in this fight and they need to get activated. We're seeing a lot more men getting involved too. I mean, birth control isn't just a women's issue, just like it's not just a social issue.
Right.
This is about family economics.
But is it in effect going to be preaching to the choir, what we'll hear for 3 days, or is there something the First Lady specifically can say that won't just make that undecided female voter maybe break one way or the other, or moreover, actually not just answer a pollster's question, but actually vote in November?
Sure. Well, I think that, yeah, we're talking to a group of Democrats within this arena, but we're reaching an audience that's a lot larger than, I mean, everybody saw the Clint Eastwood speech, Republican and Democrat alike. So I think Michelle Obama is honestly one of the most popular.
She probably won't talk to the chair.
I'm going to guess that she's not going to talk to the chair. I'm going to guess that she's going to talk to American women about the great things that her husband has done, and she has a story that people can really relate to. They can relate to her coming up, they can relate to their marriage, they can relate to the kind of people that they are, and they know that they're in it for the right reasons. And I think that's what she can communicate so effectively.
I'm curious, from your membership, especially your new members, do they tell stories about arguments at the dining room table here where husband and wife live on the same budget in the same household, but because of whether it's the reproductive rights issue, contraception issue, or stuff like that, that there's a schism within the same family dynamic?
You know, I think that husbands and wives are really on the same page. I think we're talking about the Republicans being a really extreme version of themselves. Most Americans are not divided along family lines saying, you know, I agree with Todd Aiken, and the wife saying, I don't agree. Nobody agrees with Todd Aiken,
But to
and
be
nobody
fair,
agrees with Aiken's
Mitt Romney
Republican Party.
condemned him,
Oh,
as
sure.
the whole campaign
But
did.
Paul Ryan signed the bill to do exactly the thing that Todd Aiken said, to redefine rape so some matters more than others. So you can disavow as much as you want, but I mean the truth is that's the policy. So no, I don't see a lot of Americans really divided along those lines, and I think we'll see them being pretty united in November.
Anything in particular looking to hear from the First Lady tonight?
Oh man, I mean, I want to hear her tell the story of everything that she and her husband have done for American women over the last 4 years, because we're in a really good place thanks to what they've done, and we got to keep going. It's really important.
All right, and on that note, Jess, great job. Thank you so much. Andrew, back to you.
All right, Richard French live tonight in Charlotte, North Carolina. Rich, thank you very much, and we'll have much more from Rich. His work is just beginning as we do our recap after the speeches tonight on RNN and on FiOS 1. Let's bring in the panel now. We know that the women's vote is splitting, and is splitting big time for President Obama as opposed to for Mitt Romney. But there are more votes to be had there, correct? The more women you get, the fewer white men you have to get, which President Obama is having trouble with. That's the whole point behind this, correct?
Well, that's motivating your base to turn out versus persuading those who aren't yet with you. That dynamic, I think, both parties are focused on. It's how you do it that I think will show the difference between the parties. Look, women aren't stupid, men aren't stupid, but a party that says to them that when it comes to health care, reproductive choice, and birth control, your choice will be made by the government, is not going to have an easy time persuading them to vote for their candidate. I think they're going to make that point tonight, and I think they're going to make it well.
Is there a risk of overkill in all of this? And as we get into this question, we have a list of the speakers, the women speakers who are speaking at the Democratic convention tonight, and there is no shortage of them. And Rob, I'm curious as we look through those names, is there a risk of overkill from hitting this, hitting the same button too many times?
I think there is. We're going to have a list of empowered women, but we're not going to be dealing with the fact that there's a lot of unemployed women. It's still going to come back to the economy, and I just think that President Obama is missing that boat. He doesn't get it. It's not what's important to him, really, ultimately. If it was, we'd be dealing with it.
You really think that? You really think it's not important to him?
When I have seen David Axelrod on numerous shows leading up to the convention, and he's talking about pumping money into the states for jobs for teachers, firemen, and cops, I don't think they get it, because I don't think that's a solution for us.
It's possible to think they're wrong without thinking they don't get it. And part of the Republican attack has been to belittle and demonize those with whom they disagree. You're entitled to argue that putting money to the states for teachers and firemen is not a good thing. I think you're wrong, but it's an argument. What I find so strange is this, well, they don't get it, they don't understand, they don't know what they're talking about. He does get it, he does understand. He may be wrong, but he gets it.
You know, I think that Richard has a very valid point in terms of when he started out by saying that women are not stupid, men are not stupid. And we're talking about women right now, and I know historically they've gone for Democrats, but when you look at this one particular race, the reason why they're breaking so much ahead for President Obama is that people are not stupid. They're looking at the records themselves.
Who's breaking so much ahead? Women?
Women for President Obama. Mm-hmm. And the reason why this is important, Andrew, for the president is because obviously the gender gap could ultimately decide this election, but also when you talk about enthusiasm and turnout, if the president's base of African American, if it doesn't match the historic turnout as it did 4 years ago, women could be an insurance policy against that to guarantee the election.
All right, we're going to end it on that note. We're going to keep this conversation going online. We want your involvement, as always, here on RFL. Head over to our Facebook page or Twitter to sound off. What do you want to hear from Michelle Obama tonight? We will have some of your answers coming up in a future episode. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Latino vote. That is another voting bloc that Democrats clearly are going after tonight. So that begs the question, do you know this man, and not the guy hosting RFL, but that guy? If you don't, you will after tonight. At least that's the Democrats' hope. He's got the prime speaking slot just before the First Lady. We're going to break it down after this break. Stay with us.